What's up, developers? This is chapter 6 of my Cloudflare and Hono course, and in this chapter we'll be working on the front end. We'll be adding a hero section, email input, and card component, all with daisyUI. So the first thing I want to do is start with that hero section. Let's take a look at what we currently have right now. So if I run my local server using bunrun dev, it's going to start up the server on port 4321, and I can click on that. And it jumps me over here to Chrome. And here I can see I've got my Hello World component and I have a card component I had previously copied over from daisyUI. Okay, so we're going to delete these in just a second, but first let's jump over to the daisyUI website. So here we can find all of the different components that they have. So lucky for us, they already have a hero component, which is great. So let's go ahead and search that. And then scrolling down here, so here they have a centered hero, which is just text and a button. They've got an example using an image on the right hand side, an example with a login form, here with a overlay image. So they have a good number of examples here to work with. I'm going to take just the most basic one here, the centered hero. And so the next question is, they give us the code as either HTML or JSX. So which one do we want? Well, what we need to think about is how this is going to render. So for us, JSX, we would want to use this if we have some kind of dynamic content, dynamic aspect, like we're going to click a button and we need something to happen when that button is clicked. But for us, for what I'm doing here, this hero section is going to be completely static. I'm not going to have any kind of button clicking or dynamic features to it. So I'm going to choose the HTML, and that way we don't have to worry about rendering this on the client side. This will be rendered as static HTML, which will be better for SEO. So I can go ahead and copy that and jump back over to VS Code. And then over here, I'm going to add a new component, hero.astro. So these astro.astro files get rendered as static HTML with no JavaScript sent to the client by default, which is exactly what we want. So if I just paste that in here, and then let's go ahead and here's the hello.astro. We don't need this anymore, so I'm going to delete it. And then we can jump over to the index, and we can see this is where our hello was until we deleted it. So let's get rid of that, and let's import our new hero section. There we go, and we can replace this with hero. And then we can see our server is still up, so let's go over to Google Chrome and take a look and check it out. There's our hero section. So we have the hello there plus some generic text and a button. So it looks exactly like what daisyUI gave us. Great. So now we want to tweak it a little bit here. So let's go back over to VS Code, over here to our component. So this is a waitlist website, and I'm building this waitlist for an idea that I have called JavaScript Dojo. So here I'm going to replace this header with JavaScript Dojo. And then we need some kind of subtext to say what this website is about. So if I delete that and say learning JavaScript or need some practice, question mark, you can join the waitlist. And why not add an emoji for fire? There we go. Okay, so yeah, the idea of my website is an interactive code kata platform. And so now let's delete this button too, because we're gonna have a separate sign up button. And go ahead and jump back over to Google and see what that looks like. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I want to add one other thing to the hero section. Right below here would be an estimated launch date. So that's definitely another good piece of information that people want when they're signing up for a waitlist. Like, when's this product going to be ready? So let's jump back over to VS Code, and I'm going to take this paragraph and duplicate it like that, and then delete that and say estimated launch of sometime in 2026. All right, now let's jump back over, and we can see that we have way too much space here. So jump back over to VS Code, and it's because I have a padding Y6 and padding Y6. So maybe I'll change this to just padding top 6 and padding top 6 and see what that looks like. All right, so that's looking better. Maybe shrink that just a little bit more. So padding top of, let's say 4, and see what that looks like. Okay, that's looking good. And now another thing I want to do is make this subtext a little bit lighter. Make it blend in a little bit more because I want the header to really be the thing that pops. So this is where daisyUI's color scheme kind of jumps in. So if we are over here on the documentation and we look at colors, they've got a lot of kind of pre-built colors, which is really smart because it enables them to have all of these different themes. So you can easily switch themes here like this because they, instead of using background green 500, they say background primary or background secondary. And that way you can switch the theme and the colors work together well. So they explain a lot of the benefits here of their color system, and how that works. I'm not going to read all this to you, so if you're curious about their color system, you can come check it out here. But what I was looking for is a list of all of their color names. So, for example, they have, let's see, so neutral and neutral content. So this is what I was looking for, is kind of a different shade of text color to use. So I'm going to try out the neutral content and see what that looks like. So here, in order to use that, I can say text neutral and then content. Copy that, bring it down here, and jump back over to Google. And there we go. So now you can see that this text is now a light gray. So it makes our main header really pop with that nice white color. And then our subtext is colored appropriately for a subtext. Now, the next thing that I want to do is to add the actual email input. So this is a wait list, and that means we need we need an input where someone can put their email address and click join. So luckily, daisyUI also has a component for that. So if I come back over here to their components and I search input, there we've got a text input, file input. Let's go to the text input component and take a look at all the different options here. So here's a basic text input, can put whatever we want in there. And then here they have text input with labels inside, so we can add some of that. There's a ghost style where it's invisible till you click it. There's a field set, so that's what's up here, what's your name, the optional, some nice extra details there. We can change the color, we can change the size, disabled, and here's one with a data list. So there it gives us this little pop-up. So I'm looking for one related to email input, and here's a date input, a time input, and there's an example with an icon and a validator. So let's see what this validator is. Okay, when you have something there, it highlights green. And coming down, here's the one I'm looking for. So we have an email input with an icon, with validation button. So this join button, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And so it's really nice to have this validation built in too. So if I say just ASDF and I click away, it's going to say, hey, enter a valid email address. So that's really nice. We can then put an @ symbol and then a couple characters, and now it highlights green, thinking that, okay, the email is now valid. So for this, we've got our two options again, right? So we have HTML and we have JSX. So for this one, I'm going to pick JSX because this is a dynamic component. When we click join, we're going to want to run some logic. So we're going to want to make sure that the email is valid. We're going to want to update the screen with some feedback, like a success message or an error message if something happened. So this one we're going to copy as JSX and bring it in as a dynamic component. So let's copy that, jump back over to VS Code, and then inside of here, let's create a new component. And this will be a TSX component. So that will be, we'll call it signup.tsx. And then I can just go ahead and paste. Actually, I don't quite want to just paste it. So with JavaScript here, this is now a React component. That's what it's going to be. So I'm going to export const signup, and then we want to return, and then I paste that JSX inside of the return, and then we can use this component inside of our index.astro. So here, let's go ahead and import that sign up components / sign up. Here we go. Oh, I missed the from. All right. And then let's put that in here. And take a look at what we have. So here we can see it crammed it down here in the bottom corner, but it looks just like what we had on daisyUI's website. Okay, so let's fix the location of this button here. We want it to be up here, right underneath our hero. So why is it being pushed down all the way there? Well, let's take a look using our dev tools and see if we can figure out what's going on. So looking at this, our hero section has a minimum height of screen. So that means it's taken up this whole screen, and that's really not what we want. So we're going to have to tweak our hero component. So let's go back over to VS Code, jump over here to hero, and let's remove that minimum height screen and see what that looks like. Okay, cool. So now we're getting somewhere. This is up top. I would like a little bit more padding though. So what we can do is actually add a little bit of margin top here to move that down a bit. So let's go ahead and say margin top of like 10. Jump over to Google, and there we go. We can see we have our margin top 10. Now you can see we have two different background colors going on here. We've got this one's a little lighter, this a little darker, and that's because we have a background base of 200 right there. So let's remove that background base of 200 as well. Jump back over, and okay, now it's looking a lot more clean and seamless. So now we just need this guy to be centered over here and maybe add a little padding around him. So jump back over here, come over to the sign up component. And actually what I want to do is add that kind of centering and flex type logic here around the component. So I'm going to add a div. And the reason why is it's generally best practice to keep your component without all of that formatting. So it's just an isolated component. And then wherever you're using it, you can center it or put it to the left or the right or wherever you need to. That way we don't really want that positioning logic baked into the component. So that way it's more reusable. So here we can say flex and then justify center and then give it like padding of 4, and let's see what that looks like. All right, nice. It is coming along. So let's go ahead and tinker with this a little bit. So if I say mail, we get our warning like, hey, that's not valid, mail@mail.com. Okay, and if you just leave the dot, and cool. So it gave us some basic validation out of the box, and this is just front end. So right now we click join, it doesn't do anything, but we will later, once we add in our server, add in that logic to actually make the join button work. But for now, this is looking good and it's doing what we want. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this icon right here. So we have the little envelope icon, and if we go back over to the code, and we take a look at that, we can see we have this raw SVG. So it's just got these different tags in it. It has these different random numbers. It's very hard to tell what this thing is. So if there's someone else on your team who is looking at the code, they'll say, what is this? What is this SVG? And that's where a component library comes in. So we jump back over to Google. There is a component library called Lucide React. And this is going to make bringing in icons so much easier. So basically, this is just a really nice React library for icons. And if I come over here and say mail, we can see that they have this nice little mail icon. So let's go ahead and add this package to our project. So to do that, I can jump back over to VS Code. I can kill my server, and I can say bun add Lucide React. All right, so now we've got that installed, and to use it, let's start up our server again, bun run dev, just so that's ready to go. Now I want to delete this whole SVG, and it's really annoying that this is also like a dozen lines of code just for that. So we remove that, and we can say mail, and we get some autocomplete there, mail from Lucide React. So yeah, that's what we want. Let's click enter on that, and then we can close that off. So when we clicked enter, it imported that mail icon for us. So let's go ahead and jump back over to our browser and see what that looks like. Okay, so if you just saw that upload, now we have this icon. And it's a little bit bright. It's using just the white color. I want it to blend in a little bit more. I don't want it to be so prominent on the screen. So let's jump back over to VS Code, and we can add some styles to our icon. So we can say text, neutral, content, the same one we were using for our hero section. Jump back over here, and we can see it's dimmed down a little bit there. So that's looking better. And then not only is it looking better, but it's just one line of code for our icon instead of a dozen lines of code. So, and it's very obvious that this is a male icon. So this is just a lot more maintainable, easier to understand, and makes our life better. So the next thing I want to do here is add some key points to this waitlist. So if we think about it here, so we've got like our attention grabber. So what is it? It's JavaScript Dojo. It's join the waitlist for the interactive code kind of platform with an estimated launch date. But now we need to convince people why. Why should I join this waitlist? What's this product even about? Why is it valuable? So to do that, I want to add 3 card components, 1, 2, and 3, that each have a key point of what value this product can deliver. So daisyUI has a card component. So if I come over here and search for card, we can scroll down and see what various options they have. So they've got card with an image, card with a button and a list inside of it, and different size cards. And here's a card with a border, with a dashed border, which is a little hard to see. But yeah, a lot of different options here. So feel free to pick and choose what works best for you. But for me, what I want to do is take this maybe centered card with neutral color. That one looks good. And I'm going to take the HTML because this is just static content. So I want it to render as HTML to benefit the website for SEO. So let's go ahead and copy that, jump over here to the code. And now I want this to be a reusable component because I want 3 cards. So I'm going to add this to my component directory as a card component. And this will be .astro because I want it to render without any JavaScript, and paste it like that. And then let's go ahead and bring that card component, import it here. Add the import card. No autocomplete. Sad day. Components, card. There we go. Okay, and double check my server is running. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Okay, cool. So it brought in our card, and that rendered the way I want it. So that's good. But now I want basically a title and a description, and I want that to be dynamic so that I can provide it to the component. So what I mean by that is in this card, I would love to be able to pass title equals title and description equals description. And that way I can have 3 of these cards just like that, and I can just change the title and description for each of them. That's what I want. So we can make that happen with Astro. So first let's see. Okay, so it just rendered 3 of these here on the browser. Jump back over and take a look at the card component. Now to make this reusable and pass those values past the title and description to it, we can add props up top. So add the dash dash dash, that's Astro syntax, and say export interface props with a title of string and a description of string. And this is TypeScript. So we're telling it that these are the 2 different variables to expect. And then we can pull those off of the Astro props. So it would be const title and description equals Astro dot props. And you see we're getting that autocomplete. Okay, so now that we got the title and description and we're saying those are acceptable, we're going to plug them in here. So to do that, we can use the curly braces. So basically, here's the title. Let's remove that and say title. And now that will use the title that's passed in. And then I actually don't want these action buttons. That was just daisyUI. And then here we can say description. All right. And now let's go ahead and take a look at our browser and see what happened. Okay, so now we have our title and description for all of those. And they all say the same exact thing because that's what I put here, title, description for all of them. So let's shake this up a little bit and add in some real content. So for a code practicing, code kata platform, one of the benefits is to get interview ready. So I'll put that here. Get interview ready. These are my key points to try and sell the product, get people to understand the value behind it. So I'll add a quick description here. Okay, so there, one key point. Add these other ones really quick. So another key point I think is in today's age, we generate a lot of AI code. And it's good to understand and be able to read it quickly because, yeah, we can generate code faster, but that doesn't mean we can read the code and review it any faster. So maybe something along the lines of review AI slop faster. And it's kind of funny thinking about it. Spending too much time reading AI generated code. All right, now my third key point is to code faster. So the more practice you do, the better you are. You build muscle memory and you can write code faster. So I'll add that here. All right, so now I've got 3 different cards, each with a different key point. And if I go take a look at my browser, so here we go. Okay, everything's rendering correctly. It's getting that content that we expect. But as you can see, it's quite ugly. They're all stacked like this. I want them side by side so it's more visually appealing. So to position these, what I want to do is think about 2 things. 1, mobile, and 2, desktop. So we can click this little mobile button here on the browser to get a preview of what this would look like on mobile. So here we can see the cards are stacked, and that's good for mobile. We just need a little bit of space in between all these cards. So let's build out the mobile design first, then review desktop. So coming over here, to manage the position of all these cards, the best thing to do is wrap them all in a div, and then we can control them together. So do that, save it. All right. And then let's say we can add our class, and I just need a little bit of spacing in between all the cards right now. So space Y, let's say 6, and take a look at that. And that's looking pretty good. So the issue here is around the borders, we don't have any spacing. So if I kind of take a look at that, it would be good to have a little bit of padding around there. So let's jump back over and say a padding of 4 and see what that looks like. All right, now we're getting pushed off to the side a little bit. Let's see if we can figure out what is going on there. So digging into this a little bit and why we have this scroll here, I realized it's because our cards have a hard-coded width of 96. So that's not what we want. We want this to be dynamic. The hard-coded 96 might be okay for desktop. So let's go ahead and jump back over to our card component and say, okay, so we have width 96, and with Tailwind, you can say medium width 96. Let's see what happens when we do that. So now it just puts everything into the right spot, and that is looking pretty good. I like that. And if I jump back over to desktop, all right, so it's looking better there, but we still want these side by side. But just kind of reviewing this, I'm happy with the mobile experience here. I think this looks pretty good. Okay, so now to get this looking good on desktop and get these all in a row instead of a column, we can put this into a flex box just for desktop size. So for desktop, I want to say medium flex, and flex automatically defaults to row. So you might see like flex row, but if you don't specify anything, flex means flex row. So we jump back over and we can see it did in fact put them into a row, and our medium width 96 is there, and it seems a little crowded, doesn't it? And once we get to this breakpoint, it turns it into kind of like the iPad view and then mobile view. And there we get back into our desktop. Okay, so we need some space in between these on desktop. So we can add another, let's say this is specifically for medium, a gap of 4 in between the cards. And let's see what that looks like. All right, so now we've got a nice gap, and that's looking pretty good, and it's adjusting as we move that. But what's up with this guy? He's got a bunch of extra space in here, and I'm not sure why that is. Okay, so I was digging into this a little bit to try and figure out why this card had extra space on it. And it's hard to say immediately because all of the cards are the same exact card component. And so what my thought process is, this space Y6 is causing an issue. And we can see as I hover over this that there's a little extra space under there and there. And I think that's because the space Y6, Y means vertical. So it's adding space vertically to these ones, but not onto the bottom of this one. And the thing is, this space Y6 is really for mobile, not for desktop. That's where it's giving us the benefit. So what we can do is just turn this to a space Y0 for desktop. Then hopefully that will work for us. All right, medium space Y0, jump back over, and there we go. We can see all of the cards are now the same height. And as we adjust this, everything is looking good. Cool. So that's going to wrap it up for this chapter. Our UI is now looking good enough that we can start working on our backend. And so in the next chapter, we're going to set up our Hono server.